I'm sorry, I just can't get enough of that video. And I laugh every time I see the little red cube get wheels like spin out. I said, that is my wife right there.
Actually, he always says, see, I told you, you're the gas and I'm the brakes, is what he was.
And then I look at how the red comes up to the valley and jumps over. It says confident. Then the blue, which is my son, goes over and is like cautious because he thinks about it. Yeah,
hey, at least the red didn't push the blue. That's what that's what I think most of us are getting out of this series. That red is a cuss word. All right. Anyways, no, it's not. It's not.
Guys, this has been a very fun series. Been an interactive study into the 4 basic temperaments. I believe we're going to pass out some handouts right now. Guys, what is our temperament? To give you a quick recap, what we've been talking about for the last several weeks. Your temperament is the aspect of your personality that you and I are born with, amen? Or the way that God hardwired us, if you will. It is our default setting, our predisposition to react in certain ways to life's experiences.
Yeah. So listen, you might say, okay, I don't need one of those. You give me one every week. So this is what we've done this week. We have placed it on one card. Everything that we've learned. This is the last week that we're actually going to get new information to kind of complete all the puzzle pieces will be there so we can kind of complete it. And then next week we're going to do something super special. But we are going to, from next week on, just the last 2 weeks, we're going to learn how to identify it in others. We're going to learn how to apply the things that we've learned. So if you will, take one of these because it's all in one sheet. Everything that we've learned from the last 4 weeks, 4 weeks, and all of it's there. And that way you can place it on your refrigerator, keep it as a cheat sheet, whatever, and then that way you have that. We started off taking a test. If you don't already know this, if you're brand new, if you're just coming back from vacation, we started off taking a test to find out our dominant temperament. Actually, the test reveals to us the top 2 most dominant temperaments, basically, which means this, that there's a language that we speak. There's a first language that we speak, and then the second, that's the one that speaks the loudest and absolutely screams at you. And the goal, obviously, is to learn how to speak all 4 languages or to be able to operate in each one of those temperaments and to understand them. So we've been learning that based on our individual temperaments, every one of us is wired to hear words differently, right? And then also to choose specific words over others when we're communicating with somebody else. So based on our temperament, we're going to grab those words first. Our dominant temperament dictates our first language, as we just said. But what it does is this. It also guides our actions, our facial expressions. Some of you working on facial expressions? Yeah. Because you don't say much, but boy, do you say much. Do you know what I'm saying? Actions and words and our disposition. So our temperament goes into all of that. And it really does dictate all of those things. So it's very important that we understand them. Let's take a look at it just so that we can make sure that we're understanding all of what we're doing here. Our dominant temperaments, there's 4 of them. Let's take a look at that. That's the first thing that's on your handout there. And we're just going to run through this real quickly. The cholerics is the language that they speak is power and control. And just to kind of give you an idea, it doesn't mean that they have to be in control. It's that they like things to be in control. They like things to be moving forward in a direction. Yes, sometimes they like control and they're power trippers as well and control freaks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that. It means that their first language is power and control. And then the melancholics, I'll do those because if you don't know this already, I'm representing the Reds today. So I'm a choleric and a melancholic. So those 2 are a wonderful combination. It means you want to lead, but you think everybody hates you while you're doing it. So basically, it's wonderful to be a pastor. Okay, melancholics. They basically speak the language of perfection and order. Perfection and order. About these 2, I want to just kind of give you an idea of what they're known for. Cholerics are known for being decisive, confident, not divisive, decisive, okay? Decisive and confident and driven and self-directed. They can also be bossy and impatient. As far as the melancholics are concerned, they're empathetic, they're creative, cautious, they enjoy solitude, they're perfectionists, but they can also be moody and extremely critical. right? Yeah. Uh-oh. Mm-hmm.
Now, she is red and blue. I am green and yellow. I'm on the opposite spectrum. Amen. So speaking of green, first of all, phlegmatics, they speak the language of calm and harmony. They're all about peace. Amen. Peace is good. Can you say amen, somebody? Now, on the flip side, you have the sanguine. They speak the language of people and fun. Now, I love a couple of weeks ago how when Cooney was up here and he said, being a red, he goes, let's get it done, then let's have fun. But my green yellow said, let's have fun while we get it done. Come on, guys, right?
Or when you're not getting it done. Read about the phlegmatics.
Phlegmatics are tolerant. We are easygoing, patient, kind, diplomatic. However, we can also tend to be lazy, which I don't like that word. I choose to say we choose to do things when we need to do them. Come on, guys, right? And we can be stubborn at times. The sanguines, they are enthusiastic. They are popular. They are the life of the party. Come on, you can't have a party without having a sanguine. Come on, guys. They're also affectionate. They're joyful. They're fun to be around. They are loud at times. But on the flip side, they could tend to interrupt people when they're talking. And also, they hate to be alone. They are the opposite of the melancholic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking at those, you'll see there that the sanguines and the cholerics, they are extroverted. And it does not mean that they love to be around people and they're very outgoing and it doesn't necessarily mean that. Extrovert and introvert, we learned during this study that extrovert means that they process outside of themselves, so they externally, that they process things verbally maybe, they process outside of themselves, and then of course the melancholics and the phlegmatics, they are introverts, meaning not that they stay in a hole, although they melancholics definitely do. You do not. But you're introverted, meaning that you process things and you think before you speak.
Right.
Which is always a good thing.
That's the main difference. And I said, man, that'll preach. Come on, guys.
Will it?
It will preach. You think before you speak instead of speaking before you think. Come on. There's a verse there, by the way, that says, be slow to speak and quick to hear. Mm-hmm. Amen.
And it's only taken 23 years to rub off on me. This study's basically provided a cheat sheet, guys. Seriously, that's what we just handed you. Because we don't have to wonder, we don't have to figure out how do we respond to this person, what do we say, what words do we use. Up to this point, if you and I have been the ones that are struggling to communicate because we always say the wrong things or we always say it the wrong way, or maybe we don't speak when we should be speaking and we just remain quiet, it's frustrating. But this is a cheat sheet that basically teaches us how we're uniquely wired by God so that we can understand why we say and do and hear the things that we do. And more importantly, so that we could help to learn and not hurt each other with our words. Because, words are free, but they cost us a lot depending on how we use them, right?
And what does the Bible say about that? Well, Paul said in Ephesians 4:29, I'll give the NIV version first of all. It says, do not let, there's a choice there, come on guys, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. We all have needs. Can you say amen? That it may benefit those who listen. Now the NCV says, when you talk, do not say harmful things, but say what people need. Words that will help others become strong. Then what you say will do good to those who listen to you. You know what I love? This verse is telling us that every word that we speak should not burden down, but rather it should build up and meet the needs of other people. Can you say amen? See, our words should bring health and healing, not hurt to the people that we're speaking to. But it is a choice. We can either say words that help people or we can say words that hurt people.
Amen. All right, so all of them have strengths and weaknesses, right? And you're going to say, this is all recap. Yep, but we should be getting it by now. Strengths and weaknesses, it's important that we understand this before we launch into the last piece of the puzzle today, which is so powerful. Strengths and weaknesses, all of us have them. All of us have them. So let's go through, and that's at the bottom of your first sheet. The cholerics, let's start there. Powerful strengths, right? Because cholerics are powerful, that's the key word there. Their strengths are that they're responsible, decisive, good at delegating, dynamic leaders who excel at managing tasks and projects. However, on the flip side, their weaknesses can be that they like to argue. You're going to say, but that just says argue. Yeah, I know, but I'm a red, so I'm going to insert what I know. We like to argue. We like to argue because we feel like we're getting somewhere at least. You know? We feel like, at least we're moving things forward because we're starting to understand each other. And then we can all love each other and we can say everything in love, but we don't mind arguing. Yeah. Dominate. They're very dominant. They like to dominate things. Sometimes they use a harsh tone. Have a tendency to be bossy, impatient, and intolerant. Okay, let's move on. But the blue. So the blue is, there's some deep strengths. Mind you, these are the key words. Red, powerful. Melancholics, deep. So when you find a deep person, go, yeah, they're deep.
Deep blue.
They're deep blue. All right, so their strengths are this. They're both analytical and creative. They're perfectionists who are detailed, orderly, compassionate, and artistic and or musical, right? Their weaknesses, though, is that they remember the negative. So if you give them 10 things, 9 of them are positive, 1's negative, they didn't hear your positives, they heard the negative. They remember the negatives, they fear failure, and they have sometimes a very low self-esteem. They have a tendency to be judgmental and critical. Those are strengths and weaknesses. Are you enjoying this? Okay.
All right. I'm laughing because it's describing my wife and son to a T. And now it's about to describe
he's about
me
to describe himself to a T.
So let's go ahead and skip over. Let's go ahead and skip over green, yellow.
No. You're supposed. It's in the notes to do green first. I wrote the notes. Do them.
Our peaceful strengths are we're easygoing, steady, calm, and patient. We are loyal friends, good listeners who excel at leading people. However, on the flip side, our weakness, we respond to stress by being slow and stubborn.
Say it again. Just kidding. Go ahead.
I will not because I'm being stubborn. We also have a tendency to avoid conflict. You know, I love what she said that reds like to argue, greens don't. Man, I am the perfect picture of an ostrich. I'm going to hide my head in the sand to avoid everything. All hell is breaking loose around me. But I'm going to put my head in the sand, hoping and praying that when I pull it out, it's done. But guess what? It's not gone. It's still there. I hate conflict. I would rather run away from it instead of sit there and fight it out. And we also have a tendency to disengage or be too compromising. Let's look at yellows real quick. Sanguines, they have a strength of being magnetic. They're inspiring. They're encouraging. Always have something good to say. They're great storytellers who bring joy. Come on, they're the life of the party. They like laughter and optimism to in everything they do. However, on the flip side, they might elaborate, exaggerate, speak too loudly, interrupt people, and they also have a tendency to be forgetful and maybe even naive.
Right. So cholerics, powerful, blue, deep, phlegmatics, peaceful, sanguines, loud. So those are the key words that you want to remember when you meet somebody. We'll do more of identifying other people next week.
Guys, how many know that our strengths and weaknesses are choices? We've said that for the last couple of weeks. We have a choice, and we get to choose that daily, amen? We can choose to walk in our strengths, or we can choose to walk in our weaknesses once we recognize what they are. And guess what? You've got a cheat sheet, as Pastor Jennifer said. You can put this on your fridge or in your car or your desk at work or wherever, and then you can see how you respond to people when they challenge you or they test you. Are you going to walk in your strength? Or are you going to walk in your weakness?
Basically, we have the ability now, understanding all of this, that we could say, am I going to operate out of my strength today, or am I going to operate out of my weakness, right? We should be recognizing when we're doing both, and we should have, because we have the power to do all things through Christ who strengthens us, we have the ability to step back into our strength and recognize it. We have the ability to say, listen, I know that I have a tendency to be this way, but today I choose to be this way. I know that I have a tendency to be bossy, but today I'm going to choose to hold my tongue and wait for somebody to ask me what I think. All right. The laughing wasn't holding my tongue. The laughing was somebody wanting to hear what the cholerics have to say. But anyways, what do you think, Jennifer? No. Last week we learned that each of us has innate needs, right? They're innate needs, but more specifically, I want to remind you they are specific appetites that we literally crave for. We've been taught all our lives, don't be needy, and that's true. But we can still have needs. God wired us this way with needs because not only do we need Him, but we need one another. Yes. These needs have to be filled, or we won't be satisfied, and we won't be healthy at all. They're innate needs, and we shouldn't feel guilty for having a need. Do not feel guilty for having a need and going to somebody and saying, "Listen, I need this," because God placed us in each other's lives in order to meet our needs and also to be able to go to Him.
Did you catch what she said? She said needs must be filled.
Right.
Needs got to be filled, not met.
Right.
Think about this for just a second. The reason we said needs must be filled, not met, because sometimes our innate needs are like an appetite. Your appetite is always going, right? And then all of a sudden you eat something that's filled up, but guess what happens? Later on in the day, you get hungry. And what do you have to do? You got to fill your body with food. Right. I even say that sometimes your innate needs are like a gas tank. Because guess what? You fill it up and you keep going. Eventually, it goes from full to empty. And what do you have to do? You got to fill back up. Right. Same things with our needs, guys. Because from time to time, you and I will get empty, and we must have them filled back up again. Can you say amen?
All right, so on the back side of your sheet, you're going to see the innate needs. This was what we went over last week. Let's take a look at them real quickly. Cholerics, their innate need is for loyalty, sense of control, appreciation, and credit for work. And you're going to go, that sounds so awful, though, to sit down with somebody and say, listen, I really need credit for my work. No, you don't really say that, right? But it's what we're feeling when we give and give and give and give and give, and it's not recognized. It doesn't have to be announced to the world, but it needs to be at least recognized and appreciated. Loyalty is a huge thing for cholerics. Melancholics, they need safety, sensitivity, meaning that you're understood. Like as deep as you are, you need someone to understand where you are and to not tell you to change, right? You need support and you need space and silence. Melancholics love space and silence. They need that to decompress. They need that to feel whole. And that's the point of these needs. They have to be filled, guys, or else we're not our best selves. We're not our best selves, and we're not operating from a full tank.
Phlegmatics, on the other hand, guys, we need harmony. Come on, it's all about keeping peace in the house and nobody arguing and fighting, amen?
Oh, Lord.
That's what we want, we desire. We have a desire of feeling of worth. We don't need stress in our lives. That's why we avoid conflict like the plague, amen? But one thing we desire is respect. Now, on the flip side, yellow is Jordan, approval, acceptance, attention, and I don't know if this is her or not, but affection.
It's her.
We have to take it from her? Yeah.
That's right. You do it. Okay, so real important note before we go into this last one, and it's so important to kind of look at this. Guys, these are needs. We don't get to have a license now that we know what our needs are and we can put words to them. We don't get licensed to just walk around and just go, well, you know what? I'm being the way I am because I need this. And they said you're supposed to fill my need. No, that's not what it's about. That's being needy, walking around constantly being needy, being thirsty, right? But instead, this is what we want to point out. These are needs. They're hardwired by God, meaning that we need them to be our best self, our healthiest self. And I want to point out just a couple of things, okay? Matt made the phenomenal point last week, and we had talked about it when we were working on the message, and then Matt brought it out so perfectly. These needs have to be filled, and when they're not filled, we're out of balance, we're uncomfortable, and sometimes we are truly miserable. Have you ever gone, something's wrong, but I don't know what? Or you're just aggravated or in a funk is what I call it, and you just can't seem to kick it, and you can't even find the words really to say what's wrong with you. Here's the thing. If we have an innate need for these things, then that means when we're not getting them or when we are in an environment that is the complete opposite of what we need, we are going to feel it deeply. Yeah. Let me make this point. For greens, they need harmony, lack of stress, right? They need the lack of stress and the harmony. They despise chaos. They despise screaming and yelling. Amen. They despise fighting. They do not want to fight. You're going to learn today where we go when we're not getting our needs met. So the fact that we're still married this many years later is an amazing thing. They need harmony and lack of stress. So let me make this point. If a green is living in a home where there's constant fighting, no harmony, they're going to feel anxiety. Mm-hmm. That's right. And Matt made the point last week. Can you imagine if we have these needs and they're not met, but the first thing that we do is to know how to get it fixed, we just run to the doctor to medicate it. Mm-hmm. Come on. And so I want you to hear me that anxiety is a true thing. Depression is a true thing. That feeling of feeling trapped, those are all real things, okay? So we're not saying, everybody get off your medicine and just fix it. That's all I'm saying. I just need you to hear me. Understand first that there are innate needs that we need to look at. Is this coming from a real place? Is this coming from something where I have control over my environment? Because my environment is affecting me. In a house of screaming and yelling and chaos, a green will totally feel massive anxiety, probably nervous all the time. And as a result, when you're nervous and anxious, sometimes everything shows up in your body. You might experience skin disorders when you never did before. And you're like, why? Because those are triggered from the nervousness, the anxiety. Do you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is the things that we feel on the inside, they show up on the outside. So if you put a green inside that environment, they're going to feel anxiety and nervousness, and they may even want to run away so they can find the peace that they're looking for. Does that make sense?
Fight or flight, you're going to fly it every time.
Absolutely. And by the same token, blues need silence and space. So if they live in a home where they don't get silence and space, then they're going to too feel anxious, maybe claustrophobic, and they're going to feel that feeling of trapped. That was the word that when Anthony and I first got married, I just kept saying, I just feel trapped. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel trapped. And he's like, well, see, you don't love me, you want to leave, what's the deal? And I'm like, yes, but I didn't mean that, but it's what I felt. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? But I didn't know how to fix that because I didn't know me. What's that? It does make sense. It doesn't make sense to you. And it doesn't make sense to greens because they are always at peace on the inside if they can help it, and they're like, what? What's wrong with you? Yellows. Yellows, on the other hand, do not need space. They want people. So you put them in a place where they have no outlet, they have no friends, they're kind of in that place or stage in life where they don't have a lot of people to connect to. Guess what they're going to feel? Isolated and alone. Yeah, and depressed. And probably depressed. Yeah. And they're not going to know what's wrong, but all they need is a friend. Does that make sense?
All right, guys, so here's what we're going to do. Today we're going to learn what it is that we innately do when we're not getting our needs filled. Think about that. What our default modes are when we're running on empty and not getting what we need. We're going to see the reaction of what happens.
All right, so we're going to borrow some helpers today. Pastor's going to remain our green. Andy's got a yellow shirt on. Terry's done an amazing job last couple weeks. She said to me, she's like, is there another yellow that wants to do it? You know, so that's just like a yellow. Absolutely, just like a yellow. Very thoughtful that way. So we're going to use Andy today as our yellow, our sanguine. Cole, will you represent us again for melancholics? And I will represent for cholerics. However, I'm going to probably walk out into the audience and get a couple other opinions on some things. All right, so come on up, if you will. Yellow, I need you there, Andy, sorry. So yellow's there. Microphone? We just passed that one, that's all right. Cole's going to be blue. And I'll throw over here real quickly. Okay, so when our needs are not filled, and this is going to be at the last part of your colored page, right? When our needs are not filled and we are running low or on empty, we will manipulate to get our needs filled. We will manipulate, right? So here's my question to you. We have all dudes. We may have to bring a girl up here. All right.
You're not a dude.
You're right.
Sort of.
I feel like one most of the time. All right. Listen, what would you say to that? Cole, what would you say to the fact that we all manipulate? In fact, the teaching teaches us that we're all master manipulators. And what would you say to being called a manipulator? What does that do for you? Do you agree with that? Would you say that? Would you say it?
I would say that I get my way, and if I don't, then I act a certain way for sure.
Okay, so the word manipulate doesn't bother you? Is anybody in here, it bothers you at the thought of being a manipulator?
Yeah. I mean, she called me one the other day, and I was like, no, I'm not. So I argued with her, but yeah, no, I don't like being
So
called
the
a
true
manipulator.
answer is no, nobody likes to be called
No,
a manipulator,
no.
right? Nobody likes to be called a manipulator. None of us would think of ourselves as master manipulators, right?
Right. Judging.
Oh, you need the microphone? Yeah, you do need a second microphone, don't you, Andy? Sorry.
Hey, guys, listen, like it or not, we all manipulate. Come on, shake your head this way. Every one of us manipulate. Why? Because we want to get what we want.
Over here.
Come on, say amen. Listen, I don't care how holy you are or how humble you are, you manipulate. Every one of us do. Why? Because it's part of our selfish and our sinful nature. Can I give you the definition of manipulate? Watch this, guys. I believe it's on the screen. Manipulate means to influence, especially in an unfair manner. Wow, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear so I can get what I need to get.
Okay, so we all influence. That's probably a better word, right? We all influence to get our own way. Does that sit better with you?
Yes.
It is what it is. We're manipulators. Period. End of story. And if we don't call it what it is, we'll just keep doing it. Okay? So we're going to try to change that by understanding that. So here's what we're going to do. Each temperament, we do it. And the way that we manipulate, it's basically our tell, right? And what I mean by that is this. It's our subconscious reaction that occurs every time we're not getting what we need. It's our subconscious. It's our default. Whether we like it or not, it's our default. So we need to pay attention to it. We're going to take a look at how the four temperaments use manipulation to have their needs filled. And so we're going to do this. I'll start with reds. And here's a scenario. We're going to paint a scenario for you. And then they're going to tell us how they would react to see if it is truly one of those things that is just subconscious and that's kind of how it rolls. Let's say for reds, and I'll use this example. The teacher in the series used this example. It's a great example for us if you're a parent in this place. If you're red and you are supposed to be going somewhere and nobody's moving fast enough. You've said it a couple times. You've tried to be very aware and very cognizant of your tone. But at the same time, they're not moving. They're not moving. They're dragging their feet. They're not listening to you, not getting out of bed, whatever the case may be. Reds, what are we going to do? What is the first thing that we are going to do? No. What will we end up doing before it's all over? Screaming and yelling. If you're a red and you are a yeller, would you raise your hand, please? Guys, I love this. Absolutely love this because Matt and I were texting and with Anthony yesterday. And so, I was trying to figure out who do we need to throw up there for our reds. And so I was like, in all honesty, there's nobody that can represent reds being ranting, raving lunatics better than me, right? So this is what I said. You don't have to agree with that, Matt.
I've yelled at you before.
Yes.
We're trying to practice, and you come in. The band's trying to practice, and she comes in doing her thing, talking to people. I'm like, get out of here. We're trying to practice.
Yeah.
And then I had to apologize.
Right. And so that's right. Yeah. So here's the thing. This is what I said. I texted Matt, and I said, hey, Matt, our tendencies as red is to go to tone and volume. Are you a yeller? Is what I put in the text. Are you a yeller? Here was his response. Do you remember what he said?
I said...
It was a one-liner.
Here-
Matt's
here-
great. Go ahead.
We talked about control. I think what's control you asked. I said fear causes me to control situations.
Yeah.
Fear causes you to yell or something.
His first answer was this. I said, are you a yeller? He goes, not so much. He said, I only yell when I've lost control and I need it back. That's, and he obviously, obviously it was just something, you were probably at work, and he's like, that was first thing. But I laughed so hard because, in all honesty, if you think about it, we manipulate and use our techniques because we've lost control and we need it back, right? So fear makes him yell, but the fact of the matter is that that's what happens. We've lost control of a situation. We've lost control, and I'm not just talking about Reds. In every scenario, this is what you'll recognize. We go to our manipulation when we're trying to get something back that we feel like we've lost. Okay? So they go to tone and they go to volume. Okay, here's the second scenario. Cole, I'll go to you. Let's just say this. I have two mics, sorry. Let's just say that you've had an extremely long week. This is a scenario that she painted. We'll stick with that for you because this has happened to you before. Really, really hard week. A week of just trying to get through the weekend. You finally made it to Friday. Finally made it to your weekend, and then you enter into your house. And there's something major going on. You don't get to sit down. You don't get to relax. There's something major going on. There's a party. What are you going to do when you walk in and you are not happy that you don't get to do what you need, which is silence and probably space?
I would probably go to my room and be by myself or leave. Like literally walk in, walk right out of the door.
Would anybody agree with that? Yeah, like I'm not being here. This is ridiculous. I'm out of here. Right? Okay. How about for yellows? You're looking forward to going out, being together, being with friends, getting together over a good time, a fun time. You walk through the door, and Christy's getting ready, but then at the last minute she decides, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. Maybe the blue kicked in on her, and she's like, nope, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay home tonight. What is your default? What would you do?
I am probably going to I'm probably going to want to be at the party, number one, because I like going to parties and places where people are. And so because she's my wife, I'm probably not going to yell at her or anything like that, but I am definitely going to throw a bit of a temper tantrum and make sure she understands that I would really rather go than not go.
What does your temper tantrum look like, though?
My temper tantrum, it's probably a little over the. Not necessarily. It's not loud. I don't throw a loud temper tantrum. My temper tantrum is usually quiet, but it's usually way overblown. It's usually going to be
convincing her to go.
Yeah,
convincing her to go.
definitely.
Trying to sell it to her.
And I'm probably going to try to do it through guilt. I'm probably going to try to convince her, tell her that she's wrong, that there's no reason for us not to go, that I'm going to try to guilt her into us going, to making so that I can go and have fun, because it's as much about me as anything.
Right. So if it's about you, you're probably going to be telling her how much fun it is, how it's going to be awesome.
I'm probably going to be saying, what about all our friends that are going to be there? We're going to have so and so and so and so there. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't we want to? I mean, what's wrong with them? Why don't we want to hang out with Robin and Kirk?
And you'll probably start flattering Christy. You look gorgeous tonight. Let's just go out.
No, she'll be talking about how she's, she can't find anything to wear, and I tell her that looks fantastic on you. You look awesome, and because I'm also sarcastic, she assumes I'm being sarcastic and not really being honest with her, even though I am being 100% honest with her.
Right.
And it's really becomes more of a sales job than it is a than a night out.
And that's exactly right. So for the yellows, they go straight to charm and flattery. And that charm, and he mentioned it, the sarcasm, charm sometimes looks like humor, sarcasm, being funny, and that's gaining back attention. Like, come on, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be fun. But he's not talking her language. He's talking his language. Okay, phlegmatics. Here's your scenario, Anthony. Your wife makes you a to-do list because she knows how much you love to make lists. But she also knows that making the list feels like the work that you should be doing to actually do the list. But you make the list, right? Right? Because we've had this conversation. He has lists all over the house, but he doesn't actually do them. But it felt like he got something done when he made the list, right?
That's a win by making a list. Come on, Green.
Right. I can't tell you how many drawers I've opened, and there's another list of 5 things he's going to do at some point. All right.
But the list is there if I ever get to him.
That's right.
Come on. That's right.
So here's the thing. Here's your scenario. Your wife comes back to this list, and so much has not been done. And so she starts nagging you almost. That's what it feels like to you. What do you do?
Procrastinate and drag my feet purposely.
Ooh. See? I told you on the first week, be nice to me, not to him. All right, go ahead. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so what do you do?
I'll purposely drag my feet and won't get it done. I'll make an excuse.
Because you felt what?
Pressured. I felt being harped on. So if you're going to push me to do something and I haven't done it yet, more than likely I'm going to take a little while longer.
Intentionally.
So Greens do have control issues. It's our God, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's our
yes, say that.
It's our manipulation.
Thank you.
That causes us to purposely, even though we're never in control, there are times when we like to be in control, so we just take a little while longer to do it than just a little while.
So he hit the nail on the head. They manipulate with procrastination and stubbornness, okay? So we look down here, and it actually gives an explanation of what that looks like. But being that he just said that, I want to throw this in here. He cleaned out his garage in order to put a gym in there, and whatever junk was inside the garage ended up in my house or outside of the house, just outside. And so for weeks, I'm going to say probably months, right? It was long enough for the homeowners association to write us to know about it and to write us a letter and to get it to us. So it was a long time. There's
just
a big
spare tire,
black spare tire that's sitting in our bushes up against the front of our house, right? And so you have to literally walk past it to the front door every single time. When you pull up, there's the tire. You walk past it, there's the tire. So every time we'd walk past it, it was like, can you please get rid of that tire? Can you please get rid of that tire? And then my please dropped off eventually, and it's like, can you get rid of that tire? Can you get rid of that tire? See, my tone and volume is going to go up depending on how long. If you're not listening, I will make you listen, and that's what Reds do, yes? Yes. We don't yell because we want to. It's because we've lost control and we need it back, all right? So after several, too many weeks, maybe months, I finally looked at him, I passed it, and I said, let me tell you something. If that tire is here after Friday, we're divorced. You got that? Do you understand? Do you understand? So what did he do?
2 weeks later.
Nothing. Nothing. It was so intentional. It was so intentional. And we had to get a whole nother letter from the homeowner association before he did anything. But that was his deal. Stubbornness. Oh, really? You're going to get mad at me now? You're going to tell me what to do? I don't feel respected. You can wait. Yeah.
See, the green in me said, you're not my mama, so I'm going to do it when I want to do it.
Hang on.
So the red in her said, then stop acting like a child, and I'll roll back like your mama.
And that's how our conversations go. You're not my mama, then stop acting like a child. And that is pretty much how our conversations go. Can anybody say amen? All right, good. You ain't going to find a church next weekend. All right, another one. All right. So here's what I found, and he doesn't know these are in our notes. Can you please put up the next thing, the picture? If a man says he will fix it, he will. There's no need to remind him every 6 months. Okay, but here's why I thought this was fantastic when it went past on my feed on Facebook. Let me tell you why. It's green, and that is not an accident.
Happy Father's Day, y'all.
Not an accident. Whoever made that whether they knew colors or not, they instinctively went, let's make this thing green. Yeah, okay, so it's green. So that is a scenario there, and so here's what I'm going to ask of you real quickly. Yeah. I'm going to ask you real quickly if you would. Can you recognize any of those manipulative reactions with anybody that you deal with on a daily basis or a regular basis? And you don't have to elaborate, don't point fingers at who it is, but are any of you able to say, I totally recognize some of those manipulative things in somebody now that you say that? Is there anybody up here that would say yes to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it affect your relationship? It breaks it down, right? It almost gets you killed in certain or divorced at least in certain circumstances, right? It completely affects our relationships. So here's what I'm asking you to do. You don't have to give us details, but just so that we can kind of see what that looks like in real life, can you guys give a recent example or a short story of how maybe you use that manipulation technique on somebody to get your needs filled? And if you could, can you identify the need you were trying to meet by doing what you were doing? You got anything?
Oh, yeah, okay. For me in a relationship, like with Bailey and everything, I like to stay at home. I don't want to go do anything. I think honestly, if we can sit on the couch, that's a date. That's just me being with you. I don't need to go anywhere and do anything fun. We're together. Why?
So let me point this out. Bailey, are you yellow? So what does Bailey need?
To go out and do stuff.
She needs to go out and be by people.
Yeah. So
you guys are in for a good time in the future too. Way to go, God. All right, go ahead.
So I use silence a lot when I don't get what I want. I'm quiet. I stare off, and when you ask me what's wrong, I'm gonna give you a short answer. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. Yeah. So she wanted to go out and do something. I didn't want to, so she used her little, as you say, tantrum or whatever, and used the charm and flattery, and I was just silent, and I was just standing there, and she was like, what's wrong? I was like, nothing. So I was just silent, and I use that a lot. I always get moody. I give you short answers. I stare off into space, and I like to be by myself when I'm trying to manipulate until I get my way, and then I'm happy. It's like a switch. Yeah.
Wow. So mood and, so manipulation, mood and silence. You're going to make it known that you're not happy. You're not going to scream and yell about it, but you are going to make it known that you're not happy.
I'm going to ruin it for everybody else just so I could be happy.
When I was asking him about this, and we were talking it through because my second color is blue, so we were talking about it, and he goes, yeah, like for instance, some of the times that you say, hey, go shopping, we're only going to go one place, and then we end up 4 places. I'm fine for the first place. That's fine.
The second and third and fourth place, I'm going to make it miserable for you until we can go home.
Yeah. Wow. Everybody just say wow on that. Yeah. And it's truly manipulation, and we don't consider it to be, but we have to recognize that it is, right? That it is. Andy, you got a scenario for us? And what need you're trying to fill in the moment?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a few of them, but I'll go old school because that way it's not personal, not anybody in the room.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to high school, and
way back.
It was like 12 years ago. I would have been teaching then. Yes, I was in high school. Actually, it kind of is. Anyway, no. Being growing up, athlete. Yes, maybe I do exaggerate a little bit.
Wow.
Right. I had a coach who I hated because nothing I did was, I was a kicker and I could make 45 out of 46 kicks, and the one that I missed, he is dog cussing me like I am the most worthless person on the planet. And so, I literally couldn't stand the guy. And he's still a coach today. But so what I would do is, he would get on to me, and so therefore, rather than just get pouty and whatever, I was that kid that that then, because I needed his approval, I don't know why I needed his approval, but I needed his approval.
Because it's innate.
Well,
Approval.
I know why I needed his approval, but I needed his approval. And so therefore I would literally spend hours and hours and hours, and I would make sure he would see me doing it. I mean, like over the top, he would be leaving, I would be like running the stadium, and I'd make sure he saw me running the stadium, or I would make sure he saw me out working out. It had to be in front of him. And now eventually that person, I went to work at First Coast, and the person like became literally my best friend, and we used, for years hung out all the time. But I mean, it was, and I don't know, maybe my need for approval was so deep that I had to go back to the school where I went just so I could. I don't know, maybe it goes that deep. I'm not sure, but that was literally how I operated. Though, if somebody would tell me I couldn't, then I had to make sure I did, and you had to see it. I got cut from the middle school football team, and my senior year, I ran into the middle school football coach, and I said, "Hey, thanks for cutting me. I made all conference, and I'm going to UCF to play football." And I just had to tell him, because I needed him to see that he made a mistake. It wasn't me, that he made a mistake, and that's just, I don't know, that was me.
That's awesome. And that's actually, that's a phenomenal example. His second color is red. So there's a little bit of, I need you to know you were wrong. But when he goes back to the coach, but in all honesty, and he said it without even recognizing it, which tells us how many times we are doing things and we go, I don't even know why I'm doing that. And then you go, oh, it's because it's innate. I need this. Guys, don't try to deny, we can't deny our needs. We've been denying our needs. And I know that it sounds so cheesy to identify, I need acceptance right now in this moment. And that's why I'm running these stairs 50 times today, more after practice. But if we don't recognize it, we're going to keep going around trying to get it filled one way or the other. So if we can recognize it as a true need and understand that's how God wired you, and you can try to get away from it, I could try to get away from it, but that need still remains. It still remains. So we have to find a healthy way to get it met rather than dropping dead in the heat from trying to impress someone and get the approval of someone. We can just go, I recognize that this is what I need, and I'm trying to get that need filled. That's a great scenario. Anthony, do you have another one? Because, I mean, let's share with them, all the ways that no, I'm just kidding. Is there anything? No, I mean, we all have scenarios. I shared yours before, but is there anything else? No. So, obviously.
I'm trying to keep the peace, y'all.
Yeah. You're probably. I was about to go on to the homework activity, and then someone was probably going to say, "Well, what about your scenario, Jennifer?" As a red, I scream and yell all the time. I'll just be honest with you. I will. But do I do it less than I used to? Okay, I'm not asking. I do. It's back and wow.
It's
back and forth.
The correct answer is yes.
Yeah, the correct answer is yes. No. We have a 2-story house, so I can blame it on we were on a different level. I was just yelling at you, right? But as Matt said, in all honesty, and you will agree with this, if you're listening to me and I've asked you to do something, I don't have a reason to yell. But when I've lost control and there's no one listening, and my need for control, not that I have to be in control, but we have to be moving forward, guys. Like if we're all supposed to be walking out the door, which is not a good scenario because I come in here on 2 wheels every Sunday, so I'm usually late. But what I mean is if we're not moving forward, if there's not, it drives me insane. And it's like, hey, Cole, can you take out the trash? Cole, can you take out the trash? And I'm totally cool for the first, 20 times. Used to be like 5 times, so I am getting better. But after that, it's like, get up right now and get the, you know what I mean? Because it's tone and volume with me. So it's not, but here's the thing. The reason why I've changed, and I know that I have, is because I live in a home with a green who will not tolerate it. And so he will not respond to my yelling, and he constantly tells me, if you would just say it in a normal voice, I will listen to you. But I am everything inside of him is fighting me and pushing away and wanting to crawl in a hole, and he can't stand it. So I can't manipulate the way that I used to. I can't control him and yell at him and just crank up the volume. I can't. He won't let me, because he's let me know I can't do this. I can't live in a house where everybody's screaming and yelling all the time. I can't. I'm sick to my stomach. It shuts me down. But if you'll talk to me, I'm totally with you. The minute you elevate your voice, Jen, I'm done. I can't hear you anymore. Everything inside of me is wanting to yell back at you, but it's not my thing. I just want to shut down. I can't hear a thing you say. So I've recognized after 20-something years, now my yelling comes normally with my kids because they don't listen. But at the same time, the more that we communicate and the more that I've sat down with them and said, hey, guys, listen, I don't want to yell at you. But if you'll just respond or at least acknowledge the fact that I'm talking to you, I don't have to yell, I don't have to raise my voice. Is anybody? Right. So communication is about understanding each other's needs and saying, listen, I can't deal with that. You make me anxious and crazy. My mom and I, we're good yellers, right, Mom? Yeah. She had 5 kids. She yelled all the time. So that was how our house was until I married a Green, and he says, our house will not be like that. It will not be like that. And it didn't mean that my mom was a crazy person. It just meant that that's how she got heard. 5 people, husband dying of cancer, a lot of stress in our home. Guess what? There was a lot of things that she needed to be heard on quickly. I don't have time to tell you 50 times, right? So he said, absolutely, we will not have that in our house. And that was communication. So you have a homework activity here, and we're not going to make you do it, but please take it home, and this is how we start changing these things, right? We have to say, okay, so what happened was this. How many of you have ever lost your junk, and then you went in the bathroom, you looked at yourself, and you just either bawled your eyes out or you got mad at yourself and said, why did you just react that way? Has anybody ever done that? To cut down on that, we have to recognize what we're doing, and so this is what we do. Okay, so what happened was, right? So we have to figure out why. We have to be honest. Why did I just do what I did? What need was I trying to fill? I manipulated with, and because I was needing, and you've got to fill in those blanks. You've got to figure out in the moment, and a lot of times I'll do that. I'll go to yelling, and I'll go, guys, see, I'm yelling again. All I need you to do is, and I'll tell them, and they'll be like, well, why didn't you just say that? I just did. There you go. I just did. So we have to get to that place where we say, listen, what just happened was this. You feel like you've ruined a relationship by losing your junk? Circle back with that person and go, listen, I've learned a little bit about myself, and I know I totally shut you down. I'm sorry. This is what happened. I really needed this from you, and I wasn't getting it, and I'm sorry that I totally acted like a child. And I had to manipulate. I was manipulating you, and I'm sorry. Obviously, it didn't work. Can we start over? Man, that's huge. Try doing that with your kids. Huge. So we have to fill in those blanks, and we're going to wrap it up with this. Anthony, can you hit the last 3 points, and we'll go.
Keys to change our manipulative ways. You ready? This is good. Number 1, we must recognize and call it what it is. Manipulation.
Yep, manipulation. Number 2, own it. And then ask this question, what part do I play in this meltdown right here? What am I playing in a part of this relationship breakdown? Because clearly, something's changed in our relationship. What part did I play, and specifically, what unfilled need caused that reaction? We've got to learn how to ask that question. Third thing is this, and we'll wrap it up right here. What could I have done differently, or what could I have said differently? Guys, when we fall back into these ways of manipulation after we call it what it is, and you know what we could start doing to each other is calling each other on it. I remember in the middle of a knockdown drag out one time, Anthony just stopped and he looked at me and he said, are you manipulating me? And the reason he said that is because the week before, in my clarity, when I knew that I wanted to be better, I literally went to him in accountability, and I said, Anthony, I do what I do to manipulate you, and I need you to help me stop. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to act like this. I don't want to be the crazy psycho person. I don't like myself this way. Clearly, I have needs that are not being filled, but I recognize what I'm doing, and I need your help. When I manipulate you, don't let me. Now, that felt great in the moment. But when I went to manipulate again, and I went right into default, exactly, Matt, he looks at me and he's like, are you manipulating me? And I'm like, yes, I am. And then that's where the then don't act like a child came in, which is another manipulation technique. So my thing is that if you want to change, if we want to change, we have to be honest with ourselves, and then we have to be honest with somebody else. And that's not just God, because he knows what we're doing. Taking it to him and saying, Lord, I need you to change me, that's your first stop. But our next stop is to an accountability and say, listen, I do this. I know I do. And I don't want to be this way. I need you to help me and stop me from doing it when I go to do it. So take these things as red flags that tell you, okay, you're empty, something's up. See, when we go into manipulation, we should be able to say, there it is again, I just did it again. But do more than just go, I did it again. Stop and say, okay, I'm obviously empty somewhere in my life. So I need to take the time to time out and to go get filled. Otherwise, I'm going to keep doing it again. So you can't will yourself to change your temperament. We cannot will ourselves to stop our temperament. Anthony cannot will himself to stop procrastinating. I promise you, for 23 years, that has been on every list he's ever made. Stop procrastinating.
I put the pro in procrastination.
Yes. Seriously. And temperament-wise, I have tried for years to change things about myself, and I have to recognize this. I need accountability. I need to be honest with myself. You can't change your temperament, but I can view that as a red flag and say, okay, here it is again. That ugly thing just reared its head. Where's it coming from? And then I need to be able to look at my life and go, oh, that's because I'm empty in this way. I'm empty in this way. And then I need to get it filled. How do you get it filled? Number one, you go to God, right? So if a blue is moody a lot and is segregating a lot and is pushing people away and is doing the silent treatment junk, he needs to be able to say, okay, I'm doing it again. Or maybe Bailey can say to him, are you manipulating me again? And at that point, it's God first and then us second. We can help ourselves, right? But we go to God and this is what we do. A blue would go, I'm doing it again, so there's my red flag, I'm empty somewhere. And when he recognizes that what he was doing was trying to get a need met for space and silence, or then he realizes, wait a second, I can go to God for that. And first thing I need to do is I need to go to God, which means maybe it looks like going to the beach and sitting there and journaling what's going on inside of me, or just sitting there and praying and talking to God. That's him getting his need filled so that it doesn't come out in unhealthy ways, right? Secondly, he could do something to help himself, and that is driving himself to the beach. So that's all together, right? So let's say, for instance, and this is my last point, is this. If you're a red and you need loyalty and you feel like you're lacking in that way, maybe you've had some betrayal lately, maybe something's been going on, maybe somebody at work was talking about you behind your back, and you are literally aching on the inside but not recognizing it, and then all of a sudden you just start running around your house yelling at everybody there. It's because there was a need that was not filled somewhere else, and now I'm taking it out on the ones I love. Now I'm running around my house, barking at everybody, screaming and yelling at everybody. That's my manipulation, trying to get a need filled. They didn't not fill my needs. Somebody else made me empty. But what I've got to recognize is this. I got to take it to God, and then I need to recognize that in order to fill up my loyalty tank, maybe I just need to call a couple of loyal friends go to dinner with them, have some fellowship, maybe be able to be honest about what I'm feeling, and then my loyalty tank is filled back up again. Does that make sense? Yes. We got to recognize our needs, but we got to recognize how we manipulate to get them filled. And take it as a red flag. Man, there's that behavior again that I hate. But recognizing it, not to beat ourselves up, but to take it as a red flag. Something in my life's not right. I need a timeout. God, what's going on in me? What needs what of my top 4 needs is not getting met? So that I could go communicate that effectively, so I could bring it to the Lord, so I could silence myself, so I can get my stuff together so it doesn't keep happening. That's where change takes place. Amen.